maybe we're not seeing Lotte Kopecky at her very top form. Still very strong. Won Tour of Flanders in the World Champions jersey in her home country. I think that's the ultimate right there. But they are still beatable.
Welcome back to Beyond the Podium. We have a special edition of Beyond the Podium coming at you, a special women's edition. We're going to talk about the recent Women's Tour of Flanders, another world champion victory for Lotte Kopecky. And then we're also going to talk about general state of women's cycling and flash forward to some predictions for Paris Roubaix. With me to do that, really proud and excited to be here with none other than AMGEN Guarnier. Megan, it's really great to see you. It's been a long time since, we bumped into each other on the race circuit or shared some time together with the national team. So, how's it going? How's life been in retirement, and what are you up to now?
Yeah, retirement's been good. Busy. Got two little guys that keep me super on my toes. Recently got back out riding. It's been really nice. Good to see. Last time I think we crossed paths was actually at the Bookwalter binge. That was a good time. And I'm happy to be here to talk about women's racing and what an exciting year it's been. I think it's been the most exciting year of racing that we've had in the past few years, with Kopecky clearly dominating at Flanders, but it's not a foregone conclusion for the Paris Roubaix coming up this weekend.
Yeah, Megan. So first of all, thanks for being here. Thanks for also shouting out our Bookwalter binge event where I saw you last years ago. That was that brings me back to the time closer to both of our race careers. For anyone who doesn't know Megan's a total international superstar in the world of cycling. She was the best overall ranked women's, won the World Tour in 2016, USA Olympian, 3-time national champion, won the Giro Rosa, the Women's Tour of Italy. So really none better, especially from our home country, the USA, to talk about the state of cycling. And it's a really exciting time, like you said, Megan, for women's cycling. Most of the premier one-day races now on the international calendar also have a women's race. Do you wish you were out there? Do you watch these races now? Do you watch that dominance of Lotte Kopecky yesterday and think like in my prime, or if I was still out there, like you're not that far out of it. I think, you're born like right after me. You're right in that like around 40 bubble. So what goes through your mind, and do you still wish you were out there?
Yeah. So the Tour of Flanders, I was looking back, I raced it 9-10 times, and I know the feeling. But I don't miss it. And it's really cool to see these women crushing it out there. As far as the new races on the calendar with Milan-San Remo, honestly, my opinion on that is it's not a race I would personally get excited for with the parkour. And it's great to see it on the women's calendar. And they did put on a show in those over the last two climbs in the Cipressa and the Podium. But I think when I was racing, looking back to kind of the talk in the peloton was, will we ever get a Paris Roubaix? Will we ever get a Paris Roubaix? And maybe I'm not the most optimistic person in the world. I was like, yeah, we're never going to see a Paris Roubaix. But so it's really cool to see that on the calendar and to see that the women are racing it. And will be the 5th edition of it. And every year it's been a different scenario and a really interesting race to watch. Personally, do I feel a need to race them? No, probably not at this point in my life.
Fair call.
Maybe I would have been more excited about it 10 years ago when I was a little younger and recovered a little better.
Yeah, that echoes my sentiment as well, Megan. I'm feeling pretty good at 41 years old to be in the safety of our own home and taking my chances with the toddlers. Although I don't know, sometimes the toddlers make me think Roubaix or Flanders would be easier. So maybe you're a little more adept as a parent than me. But Megan, so as you're watching, what sticks out to you the most when granted you're not in the peloton anymore, but when you think about your time on the world stage, and you were, like I mentioned, you were the world's best. You were literally the world's best in 2016. You were such a consistent career, just backed by longevity. You're just, I didn't even realize you'd done Tour of Flanders so many times. So you raced long enough to see the sport sort of evolve through your career there. And I think, like the men, as an outsider, there's also been another shift since you retired a little bit. Women are racing a little differently. Talk to us about, how you see the lay of the land of women's racing now, the teams, the superstars, and absolutely, like, the recent Tour of Flanders winner and Lotte Kopecky and her team SD Works factor into there.
Yeah, in all fairness, the first 3 editions of the Tour of Flanders that I didn't technically finish. To balance that out, I was a part of the winning team for four of those wins for my teammates. The women, you're exactly right. Women's racing has changed a lot. That since I've retired, there's been the minimum salary to be a world tour team, and that in and of itself has raised the game a lot, and the level, the distribution of talent and the level has definitely gone up in the professionalism around just staff and nutrition, and things have just really evolved in the past 5 years. I'm sure you've seen this as well on the men's side, and to the point I was even reading about Pauline Ferrand-Perot yesterday using a self-inflating tire system, and that was for me.
Wild. Yeah. Yeah. Robot bikes everywhere. I know. We barely had electronic shifting when we were finishing our careers.
Right. And even the width of the tires. It's crazy. I was watching the race and I'm like, whoa, those are some massive tires on these women's bikes. But yeah, I think the racing has the ability to watch the racing is really nice now. When I was racing, it was really Twitter feed sometimes. Maybe the UCI website had a live feed, but all the World Tour races, we can watch the last, hopefully 60K. Yesterday, we got to watch the last almost 100K. And that ability to tune in into women's cycling and really watch the action, because there are a lot of players. It's great. I love it. And
yeah, it seems as deep as ever.
It's as deep as ever. And then you have, and I love the racing right now, because SD Works, we kind of see on paper as the strongest because they've been winning a lot. But in the races, there's a lot of teams doing different tactics, and it's not just one or two of the strongest teams, like maybe you would say Little Trek or SD Works. There's really when I was racing it, we were kind of, Boels Dolmans was kind of the team to look at, which we are doing with SD Works a little bit, but at the same time, it's just not, they're there, they're always there. They have a great game plan. They have an excellent tactician in their DS, but the race isn't just about them controlling the whole thing.
Megan, that's an interesting point. Like, just also, like, as a pure observer who's never raced in the Women's Peloton, but I remember watching a lot of the races, during the time of our careers, during your career, there didn't seem to be as much of a depth there. There were a lot of like solo breakaways, like the line through the team would sort of like drop off in depth, kind of quick. But now it seems like you really are seeing like this highly unpredictable, like more of like a true like fight of depth, and then like really like a battle of wills at the end of like all these talented individual like leaders who are like leaving me like biting my nails. It's not like someone's just like blowing the doors off everyone and walking away all the time. Megan, do you stay in touch with any of your compatriot women who are racing Flanders or any of these recent races?
I haven't. You know what? We are getting out of the sport a little bit, in that there's not a ton of racers that I can just like text the night before and say, "Hey, good luck. What's the game plan?" But there are still some women in the peloton I can reach out to. I do reach out to, give them a little thumbs up on a success or a little pep talk. As far as we were talking about yesterday with Tour of Flanders, Kopecky won, but I wouldn't say SD Works was so dominant, and the other teams were racing hard. They were racing against them. Little Trek, I know that they didn't have that final, but the way they were attacking, that's exactly what people need to be doing with SD Works. And Movistar was also attacking. And that in past years, we haven't seen that as much, because I don't know if the strength wasn't there, or people were still trying to figure out how to beat SD Works. So it is really exciting this year. And yeah, it also, we talk about a lot about Lotte Kopecky, and she's strong. She's really strong. But again, I think everybody needs to remember she has turned her focus a little bit towards the Tour de France Femme this year. She's looking to be a GC contender. She's backed by Anna van der Breggen, who's also looking for the Tour de France this year. So maybe we're not seeing Lotte Kopecky at her very top form. Still very strong. Won Tour of Flanders in the World Champions jersey in her home country. I think that's the ultimate right there. But
yeah,
they are still beatable, and other teams have to believe it. And I think it is a little bit of a lot of race your own race versus, oops, sorry.
Yeah, race your own race versus, yeah, I definitely feel what you're saying. Race your own race versus just race against the one favorite. They're not only racing against Lotte Kopecky out there, as we just talked about. The field is really deep. The teams are stacked, and there's a lot of very capable women. I think one of the things we just talked about, doing a bit of a preview for the men's race of Paris Roubaix before this, is the factors, the variables of Paris Roubaix are also huge. Like in a flatter race, a flatter course, the role that a teammate can play late in the race, or the role that, an accumulation of errors, whether it be punctures, crashes, missing position out, that can add up over time on a flatter course, can really chisel in, I think, to the strength in a way that can't be made up for, in a race like Flanders, where there is a steep cobble climb where you can sort of reset it with just your all right power. So what are your thoughts? I know, like, as you said, Paris Roubaix didn't exist as a women's race during your career, but considering that, a classic style one-day race with the cobbles, but that is a flatter terrain, if you had to pick a rider or team that was going to go up against Kopecky and her team and give her a run, how would they do that? Like, what team or rider would it be, and how would you see him go about that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's a very much a team race with the lead-ins to the cobbles, and keeping your protected riders protected between the cobbles, in the cobbles, sitting in front of them in the wind. And I mean, there's always the possibility of punctures, mechanicals, crashes. As far as how to beat Kopecky and Team SD Works, yeah, that's a conundrum we've been talking about for the past 4 years. But I do think it's an attacking style, and you isolate them and you attack, and you just keep attacking. And it can come down to a small group, obviously, or it could be a solo rider, like a really strong powerhouse. Ellen Van Dijk has had a really strong season. She wasn't quite on the top end that I saw her earlier at Flanders, but it's a week away, and you can have a bad day every now and then. So somebody like Ellen Van Dijk or Marlene Reusser. I'm really sad to see Elisa Longo Borghini out with a concussion in her crash from Flanders, because she had, in San Remo, she had that 2 kilometer to go attack that was really impressive. And then she won Doors Door Vlaanderen, and then she won the Doors Door Vlaanderen with a 30K to go attack. So I think the attacking style, you're not going to the line with Kopecky or Weavis. It's going to be hard to beat them. No, so it is really we have to put either Little Trek, Movistar, Fenix de Koenig. They all have to get on the attack, go 2-ups, really put SD Works on the back foot and make them work.
Yeah. Megan, looking at, the race yesterday, Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, she has this mountain bike pedigree. I love seeing that crossover to the road. Already, she's obviously world class, just bike racer in general. How how does that suit a rider on a mixed surface, high variable race like Paris Roubaix? I know you found a lot of success in races like Strada Bianca in your career. Do you see some of these world class, multidiscipline women's racers come over? How do you think that? Talk to me about what that means for Ferran Prévot, and that she was so close on Sunday. She's been really close. Like, what needs to happen for a multidiscipline historically mountain bike rider like her to put it together in a classic, in a monument?
I love Pauline. I was teammates with her in 2013 on Rabobank. It was Pauline, Marianne Vos, Van Vleuten.
Wow, stacked.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
stacked.
Pauline has a special place in my heart. She did great at Strada. Earlier this year, she was just attacking. She was super strong, and she got third. And then on yesterday, I really didn't. I was wondering how her sprint would be against Kopecky, because we have to remember she won Worlds in 2013. Or maybe it was 2014. She won the World Road Race out of a sprint, so she has a kick.
No slouch.
Yeah, she has a kick. So that was one team I failed to mention in Paris Roubaix. You have Marianne Vos and Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, and go on the attack. You tire out SD Works, and then they might not have that top end kick that that we're used to seeing from them. But Pauline is definitely one of the riders to keep our eye on for the rest of the year. I know she's also very motivated for the Tour de France Femme in her home country.
Yeah. Oh man, the star-studded teammates that you just racked off, that you've seen over your career, once again, can't overstate your credibility here, Megan, to be chiming in as an expert. So I guess the only other curiosity I sort of have, looking for insight in the women's peloton, especially as we consider it Paris Roubaix, these women's teams that have, most of them have a men's team, or a lot of them have a men's team. Some of them don't. Do you think there's any disadvantage or advantage of like a pooling of resources in terms of like approaching a race like Paris Roubaix tactically, strategically, with the tire testing, the reconnaissance of the specific sectors, meter by meter breakdown of where it's going to happen? Is a team like SD Works at all disadvantaged to a team like Pauline Ferrand-Prévot's team that has a men's counterpart that's also like they're basically doing a 2-for-1 out there over much of the same course?
I would say not. I would say the technology, the information, the sports science, that's all. It's equally available to all the teams now. I guess with the teams that have higher availability of resources like SD Works, no, it doesn't make a difference. But maybe for the smaller teams that aren't as prominent, if they were associated with a men's team, that would make a difference for them. I don't see SD Works going into Paris Roubaix with any disadvantage. Let's say.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's what we want to hear as fans, and that's just an awesome, like, from someone with your expertise in the women's peloton and the sport as a whole. Like, it's a nice confirmation and reminder that like the level is there. We got a super exciting women's Paris Roubaix coming up on Sunday, so I know I can't wait to watch it. Everyone else can watch it. We can watch it, Megan, on Peacock this Sunday, Paris Roubaix. Megan, it's been really awesome joining you here and getting your insight, catching up a little bit, and look forward to next time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Brent.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining this episode of Beyond the Podium. We will see you next time.
For all your cycling content year-round, subscribe to NBC Sports YouTube page. We got it all.